Good morning, everybody. It's 9 o'clock, and 9 o'clock is with me, Father Warner. We are in the Tuesday of the 6th week in Ordinary Time. Our text today is taken from the Gospel of Mark. We are in chapter 8, verse 14 to 21. As you can see, I'm maneuvering all my little sticky notes with all my teachings on it. I've entitled today's teaching, 6 meals a day. So let's read the text first, 14 to 21 of the 8th chapter. Now the disciples had forgotten to bring any bread, and they had only one loaf with them in the boat. And he cautioned them, saying, "Watch out, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and the yeast of Herod." They were saying to one another, "It is because we have no bread." And becoming aware of it, Jesus said to them, "Why are you talking about having no bread? Do you still not understand or perceive? Are your hearts hardened? Do you have eyes and fail to see? Do you have ears and fail to hear? And do you not remember? When I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did you collect?" They said to him, 12. "And the 7 for the 4,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did you collect?" And they said to him, 7. Then he said to them, and I'd like to say that he said to us, "Do you not yet understand?" The Gospel of the Lord. Now, earlier in chapter 8, Jesus had worked for the second time the miracle of the multiplication of the loaves and the fish. I explained that to you. And we are told at the end of that miracle that there were 7 baskets left over. I explained that these were not just grocery shopping bags. The Greek word is spuris, S-P-U-R-I-S. They were very large commercial baskets. They were large enough for a man, because if you read when St. Paul was lowered from the walls of Damascus, the Greek text says that they lowered him in a spuris. So these baskets were large enough to have the weight of a man, and there were 7 such baskets. Now let's assume that if a basket of this nature could hold a man like Paul, who was about hopefully 80 kilos, I'm 73, if Paul, assuming, was a little heavier than me, then on an average 7 such baskets would give us 56 kilos of scrap food. Not forgetting that the Lord had already fed 4,000. So imagine the miracle that he had worked. Stop. Let's assume that if a basket of this nature could hold a man as heavy as Paul, roughly about 80 kilos in weight, then in an average 7 such baskets would give us 560 kilos of scrap food, not forgetting that the Lord had already fed 4,000. I want to give you a sense of how large this miracle was. Now, what, or rather, where is all of this going? You see, in today's gospel, we are told that the disciples have got into a boat with Jesus. And then, much to their dismay, they realize, "Oh my goodness, we've brought just 1 loaf of bread, and we are 13 of us in this boat." Now, Jesus was aware of their reaction. And I think Jesus must have been a bit shocked at their disbelief, their incredulity. And Jesus kind of ignores them. And Jesus continues to teach them now. And he's teaching them, he's not focusing on their worry of 1 loaf of bread, but he is concerned about teaching them. So he's teaching them about the hypocrisy of the Pharisees and of Herod. And that's why he carries on, "Watch out, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and the yeast of Herod." Now, the disciples sitting in the boat have still their mind on 1 loaf of bread, and good God, how are we going to manage? So they don't get what Jesus is saying. As I said, they were still worried about their 1 loaf of bread. And they begin to think that the reason why he's talking about the east of Herod, yeah, east is associated with bread, but the reason why he's talking about the east of Herod and the east of the Pharisees is because perhaps they forgot to bring bread. How foolish they are. And Jesus is now telling them, beware of the east of Herod and east of the Pharisees. Now, Jesus must have really been at his wits' end. Look, in the Gospel of John, he tells us, I am the bread of life. And he is the bread of life. He demonstrated that he could work the impossible, feed 5,000, feed 4,000. And here were his closest. These were his apostles. These were the ones he was going to send out into the world. And they were worried about one loaf of bread. I think it sounds very familiar because this is the story of all of us. So Jesus' confrontation is very hard on them. The disciples now, if you look at the text, are accused of the same behavior as that of the Pharisees. And Jesus says to them, do you not perceive? Do you not understand? Are your hearts hardened? Do you fail to see? Do you fail to remember? I can imagine what a frustrating moment that must have been for Jesus, because his very own did not understand him. And you know, this happens to the best of us. When we are, those who are closest fail to understand why we do what we do, what drives us, what motivates us, what pushes us. You know, in our life, my dear friends, the Lord's cross always exists in mathematical ways. You know, God always adds or multiplies, but he never subtracts or divides. Yet the many miracles of multiplication that Jesus has performed in our lives have gone unnoticed. And I want you to look today deep in your hearts. Look for the presence of Jesus in your life, and you will see that while you continue to clutch on to that one loaf of bread, he, the bread of life, has already filled our barn with good things. Not just our basket, our barn. He has provided for our every need and fed us many, many times over, perhaps even 6 meals on some day. Today, thank the Lord for all that he has done for you. I thank the Lord today for a beautiful couple, Giselle and Sheldon, who celebrate their wedding anniversary today. I met Sheldon many years ago. I think I might have said this while I was teaching at the Ministry of the Word course for lay people. It's a 2-year course, and I used to go at that point of time from St. Jude Church early in the morning to a parish, designated parish in Mumbai, to preach at all the masses and appeal for money for our church in St. Jude's. And then I would go after that at 10 o'clock, reach the church, reach the seminary, teach from 10 a.m. to 5 in the evening, and then go back to that parish in Mumbai, wherever it was, for the last evening mass to preach again and then appeal for funds. And I did this for about 2 years. And Sheldon was sitting in my class and he said to me, you know, can I come and pick you up in the morning? Can I drive you up and down? And it was such a blessing, and we developed a beautiful friendship. And then, of course, I met his wife, Giselle, who today many of you have heard her voice on the adorations that we used to have in lockdown. You'll hear Giselle if you come for our retreat to Igatpuri. She leads the praise and worship. You'll hear Giselle if you come for the missions at St. Jude, where Father Michael Payapalli will lead it. Not St. Jude, sorry, it's St. Stephen's, where Father Michael Payapalli will lead it. And yes, this has been a wonderful couple living the faith. I'm very proud to also say that they have 2 daughters, one of who is my godchild. So God bless you, Giselle and Sheldon, on your wedding anniversary. God protect you and God keep you always. To all of you, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, do subscribe to our channel, and to all our donors to the Love Joy Hope Foundation, thank you.